maintaining operational integrity and national security. So allow me to introduce our distinguished panelists who bring a wealth of knowledge and age for the discussion. I'm honored to introduce AVM Rajiva Ranjan, who is a moderator, assistant chief of Integrated Defense Staff ICT, a distinguished expert on India's space battle dynamics. AVM Ranjan has immense knowledge in the critical insights into the evolving technology landscapes and the impact of the fourth industrial revolution on of warfare. He has worked on importance of industry involvement in early design phases and aligning product development with defense needs. His expertise will greatly enrich our panel discussion. I would like to introduce to you on stage, sir. Big round of applause to sir. Then I'm honored to introduce Air Commodore Abhijit Saraph, AOC 9 BRD, Indian Air Force. He has made significant contributions to Su-30 MKI maintenance, avionics testing, and software integration. He was instrumental in compiling booklets on FEW systems, weapons, and radars. He successfully led several integration projects on air combat software development and electronic warfare. His expertise in project management will provide valuable insights for our discussions today. Then I'm pleased to introduce Wing Commander Sudhakaran, CEO of Q-Gates Technologies, visionary leader, an expert solution architect with proven track record in innovative design and development. With advanced degrees in software systems, information systems, and business management, and expertise in AI, machine learning, and cloud computing, he is renowned for his original patent design across diverse technology platforms. His broad experience will provide invaluable insights to the panel. Lastly, I would like to introduce Wing Commander Satyam Khushwah, Director at Indian Space Association. He is a decorated fighter pilot who served with distinction in Indian Air Force for over 21 years, earning 2 awards for his pioneering contribution. During his time in Indian Air Force, he specialized in satellite image analytics, geo-intelligence, and campaign mission planning. He later served as defense specialist at the National Security Council and represented India 4 times at United Nations Global Geospatial Information Management at NSCS. He played a key role in drafting the National Geospatial Policy, restructuring surveys of India, creating a geospatial analytics facility, and overseeing numerous critical national level projects. At his present role as Director of Indian Space Association, he is playing an instrumental role in various facets of mission defense space launched by Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi. So let me welcome all the esteemed panelists. I would now hand over to AVM sir to please moderate the session.
Thank you, Bhupesh, for doing task of introducing the members. Jain, the guest. I have 3 panelists. I'll get on the stage to the task because my clock has already started running. Instead of 45 minutes, we have 31 minutes. So 3 in blue uniform, 2 of having hung the uniform. They are doing a yeoman service in the civilian domain. Each of the member will have 9 to 10 minutes to present their view. First, we have Air Commodore Saraph, AOC 9 Wing, who would be covering the nature and the various aspects related to cyber attack in the air and space domain, and the consequences, along with certain mitigation member, what the Air Force has been adopting. All to you.
At the outset, I would like to thank DSCI as well as AVM Vatsa for giving me this opportunity to come and stand in front of you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's been late, and I will excuse myself after this because I have to catch a flight, and as what Bully sir had said, that Bangalore traffic is quite, it's quite typical. When I got this information that I need to speak about this subject, I thought, yes, I would do wonders, and went through some literature and my experiences. And when I came here, these first 4 panels, there was nothing that which I could add on to, because every single element in this entire ecosystem, whether it is developers or maintenance, maintaining people who maintain or people who maintain the airport, all of them have spoken as to how to have more resilient systems in future. So later on, I decided to cut down on my presentation, and then I wrote some script there while sitting there. So even that was not successful because I wanted to start with saying that, we have an aircraft which is flying with 80386 and 486, but Suresh took that from me, and he already mentioned that most of the aircraft still fly with this older technology. So taking this cue, which then I thought that why would I really require this modern systems? I have the Russian aircraft which is, doing its navigation, doing its flying, and if you look at the Sukhoi 30s, which 20 years ago were the top of the technology, and even today as Air Force, we say that this is one of the best frontline fighter aircraft that we have. Most of the technology we use there is 386 and 486 based. The autopilot there, the fly-by-wire system there is analog. The data download takes place, and if we really had maintained the data download systems which were given by the Russians, probably what Nattu sir said that we maintain the security in our the FDR systems, that question also would not have arisen because their analysis is quite outdated. The protocols that they use, the RING 429 or 1553 buses, they have already tweaked them. The RING 429 that they use does not use the same frequency that the Airbus uses or maybe the Boeing uses. The 1553, they do change certain frequencies or the CRC codes so that the normal implementation is not successful. The video standard that they use is different than what we use elsewhere. If you look at the STANAC 3350B, being a little more technical, they use a different voltages to use the synchronization pulse. So is that the prevention against the cyber breaches? Is that the way to avoid these cyber breaches in the future? And is that the way the country should progress and proceed? Somebody in the first session, or maybe I think Godse sir said, that should we have our own protocols? Should we have our own standards? Should we have our own hardware? Is it too tall a target to achieve or too tall a system to achieve? That is for designers to decide, and probably I don't know if we really have that kind of hardware, that kind of bandwidth in terms of money, in terms of the industry, in terms of going right from bottoms up or starting from scratch using the designing our own chips. I really don't know we have reached that stage as of today. Probably that's about 20, 30 years hence. So till that time, as a user, as a person who is to maintain these systems, as a person who is to ensure that when the pilot sits in the cockpit, he is assured that everything is safe in that aircraft, including the data breaches. I believe the Air Force per se has been doing its bit all this while, understanding that we do not have the top of the line systems with us, including the protection part of it. So as regards what Air Force has done till now to secure itself from all these breaches or attacks or taking the data out is concerned, yes, we do have our own network, and good part is the network is not connected to the internet. And till now we have been able to ensure that we are secure enough. We have not been breached by the attacks from the outside, and some of those people who have made it possible are amongst us today. I will not name them, but suffices to say that we are secure because of this till now. Now comes the data handling part of it. How do we really handle the data? Do we really have to do something about it? We do have systems which were, somebody mentioned, the scientist from ADA mentioned that we have been using systems which are based on Windows XP, 2000 servers, and how are we maintaining them? Even today we are maintaining them. But yes, we have problems because if the hardware goes down, today there is no hardware which supports Windows XP. So do you as industry have these solutions? Number one, to say that as test equipment, as ground systems, what you give us will not be outdated anytime. Or if it becomes outdated in terms of hardware, you will keep supporting us through the new software so that, even the new hardware software combination will keep doing the job, because the test equipment which tests the LRU or line replaceable units, they have been designed 30 years back, 20 years back, 25 years back. And if by chance, if this test equipment are connected to the net, and if there is a breach, leave aside the net, but if there is a breach, if there is an insider who hands over this data to an external agency, you do have technology today to kind of decipher this information and use it for making counter systems or attack us at a later date. So that is a guarantee that I as a user probably want from all of you as thinkers or industry out here. So that I thought is something which I would kind of put forward to. As I see, using the technology which is based in AI and ML, how best could it be used to design or even disrupt? Just to give an example, a few days back, we handed over a contract to one firm in Chennai to develop a smart display in one of the helicopters that we have. Now, this helicopter has come from the OEM abroad. We do not have any information about that display. And I, for one, in my previous appointment, was inclined to develop that particular display in the country. And we kind of we were facing the hurdles because we did not know how the particular display communicates with the rest of the systems in the aircraft. To our surprise, in 6 months, this particular industry in Chennai has decoded that particular communication protocol, and he has built up a display and he has demonstrated us the entire capability. It's good that this has happened. The threat from this is that even the protocols which we feel are not, which cannot be decoded, can easily be decoded using the AI and ML based technologies today. So is this the way going forward? Will it be possible for the adversaries, if there is an insider threat wherein he captures the fly-by-wire, the FDR data or a fly-by-wire data, uses, captures about 100 sorties? It's very easy to gain these access to these 100 sorties because we keep sharing this information with our manufacturer, who is an Indian agency, and I really doubt their own cyber security protocols. So if that is the case, is there a case in point wherein they will build their own systems to counter us? So these are the questions probably you as developers, or you as industries, or you as think tanks, I would like to pose to you. Otherwise, what I wanted to say has already been covered. So as a user, I pose these questions to you and stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you sticking to the time, and maybe you have a flight to catch, that's why. Now we call upon Satyam to cover aspects related to differences between terrestrial threat versus threat to air and space asset, and also the mitigation and measures so as to enhance the resilience of the air and space assets.
Can I get the screen connected to the laptop? I've connected the HDMI. Coming up with, that we have made this software, and a lot of things are getting picked up from open source and GitHub, which could have vulnerabilities, or which over a period of time would have got kind of penetrated, breached upon, but may not be available. But that information may not be available to us. So given the disruptive nature of the technology that is building up, I think it's very important to look deep inside what is coming in, Otherwise, at least in critical areas, important to invest in making your own protocols. Otherwise, we'll always have an external dependence. That is my humble submission and observation. As a start point, I am not a cyber geek or a person who claims to have too much of understanding of the cyber domain. But yes, I do have a company which works into the quantum secure communication domain. Plus, I am into the can you just go back one slide? So that is the disclaimer that I'm also a student of the subject. So in case there are any observations, I'll be happy to learn from all of you. Control of space means the control of the world. And this is a very important aspect which you must bear in mind when you go out from here, because that is how things are moving. And with the increased opening of space and the dependence of increasing dependence on space, space is going to be impacting our lives in much more deeper aspect than it does today. If you look at the present scenario, we have the terrestrial networks, we have the aerial networks, and we have the satellite networks. But as things are moving forward, there is an increased amount of interoperability, integration, and collaboration which is building up, because that is how the technology is moving in. And for that reason, if I may also say that there's an increased amount of synergy that is building between cybersecurity and electronic warfare, which is often referred to as SEMA. So please keep this aspect in mind when you're looking at the subject in its entirety. Just quoting some incidents of the past, we've had some major ransomware attacks, which probably you would be aware of, the most recent being one in AIMS, in which the whole hospital got disabled for a long period of time. In terms of the aviation world, we had a Boeing 787 being taken over by hackers. So what we are talking about has already happened, and it could have a disruptive implications. A repeat of 9/11 in a different format could always be a possibility. And then we've had satellites being affected too because of cyber threats in the past. Now, when we talk about the various threats that are posed by cyber, specifically when it comes to the air and space assets, is that you have an absence of warning generally, lack of real-time updates because of the very nature. I'll cover these aspects later on. Ground infrastructure dependency, speed of attacks, physical implications, attribution difficulties, vulnerabilities in the supply chain, and of course, limited response options. Now, the challenges posed specifically in terms of absence of warning is because, unlike in terrestrial systems, the ability for an air asset or a satellite especially to respond to an attack in real time becomes very, very limited because the way the systems are designed today. And such aspects can go undetected for a period of time, because which kind of allows the attackers to establish persistence to carry out their objectives. So this is a very important difference vis-a-vis the terrestrial ecosystems. I don't say that all would fall under this category, because in terrestrial systems also we face some sudden spectacular attacks. But I'm talking of the general nature of things. Similarly, in terms of speed of attacks, cyber attacks can generally happening at the speed of light, potentially compromising air and space assets before any defensive measures could be deployed. And the rapidity of the cyber attacks can overwhelm the response capabilities of air and space operators, especially in case of automated attacks or distributed denial of service campaigns. In case of attribution difficulties, it is really very difficult to find out in space who's the one who's kind of done that disruption. If you look at vulnerabilities faced by air and space assets, it would be weak encapsulation and isolation, limited physical security, lack of path management, reliance on COTS components, reliance on the interconnected systems, code quality and security, and that is what I was referring to, because a lot of youngsters are coming up at a very rapid pace with a lot of solutions. So this is where I think the comment by the previous speaker really prompted my mind to think in that direction. Because in their race to move ahead with the other guy, they just plug and play systems, and the cyber resilience or the cyber vulnerability of these systems need to be really checked, especially when we are using them for defense applications and otherwise for civilian applications also, because tomorrow that satellite could be hacked and probably used to create a disruption in space, and the attribute will, that will be thrown on the origin country. So there is a big problem here. When we look at the kind of networks that we are dealing with, we have the space network, the space segment, we have the link segment, the user segment, and the ground segment. And the user segment is also kind of exposed to your terrestrial ecosystem. When we look at the vulnerabilities, we have, in terms of the space segment, we have the command intrusion, payload control, denial of service, malware. I think time being less, may I request all of you to kindly keep looking at the slides so that we move fast, otherwise it will take more time. In terms of cyber risks, if you see the center of the slide, they are the ones which are listed in the center of the slide. When we're looking at the type of attacks, if they are focused on the integrity, functionality of the security of systems, then the kind of attacks to be expected are orbital manipulation or collusions, insider threats, man-in-the-middle attacks, or physical attacks via cyber means. If the attacks are likely to be focused towards operations, we are looking at disruptions, manipulations, and compromise, which would in turn be focused on data interception and tampering, orbital debris manipulation, and cyber espionage. Now, satellite vulnerabilities, the shift towards the software-driven system has expanded the terrain or the attack zone in which the vulnerabilities are existing. This growing attack surface stems from increased digitalization, automation, and integrated supply chains, making space system more vulnerable than ever. Here, the range of potential attackers spans from novice attackers to sophisticated nation states. One of our neighbors has been very active on this, and they have been playing largely over a period of time. I may not be able to share the operational details on this platform. If you look at it from the expansion of the attack service side, we have, I think I've covered all this, so we'll move ahead. In terms of the entry points and targets, the cyber attacks can exploit weaknesses in the ground link and the space segments of space systems. To comprehend the scope of potential threats, it is vital that we differentiate between the segments and identify specific targets that the adversities may want to exploit. In the ground segment, it is mostly the terrestrial component that interacts with the control system as the ground systems, control centers, and communication networks. The attacks can disrupt satellite operations, manipulate commands, or compromise our communication channels. When you look at the link segment, the attacks can intercept data, spoof navigation signals, or disrupt the communication links, leading again to manipulation or loss of data control. When we look at the ground vulnerabilities, they are as flashed. I'll just wait for 2 minutes for everybody to kind of familiarize yourselves. When we look at the space segment vulnerabilities, the other aspects which are coming into attention are firmware manipulation, sensor spoofing, orbital manipulation I've covered, clock signal manipulation, radiation-induced errors, payload manipulation, zero-day attacks, and command intrusion. When we look at the protection side, we basically need to focus on 2 aspects, and that is on communication security and the transmission security. When we are looking at the key aspects of communication security, we need to focus on encryption, authentication, and key management. When we are looking at the transmission security, we need to look at frequency hopping, spread spectrum manipulation, and anti-jamming techniques. And this is where I mentioned earlier that the overlap between electronic warfare and the cyber side is now taking shape. Now, what do we do about it? So there is one Space Directive 5, which is already in place, which talks about cybersecurity principles for space systems. Time being less, may I request you to kindly refer to this document on your own. As far as space policy and governance aspects are concerned, there is a specific need to look at the space and the air and the space interoperability aspects centric cybersecurity standards with a fresh look because of the way things are developing today. And when I'm talking about air, the drones are coming up in a big way. The HAPS is coming up in a big way. So the ground segments are talking to HAPS to the satellites. The satellites are talking to, say, marine assets. The satellites are talking to themselves. They're talking in different orbits. Like you have the low Earth orbits, you have the medium Earth orbits, and you have the geostationary orbits. So laser communications are working there. So a lot of things are happening. New protocols are getting developed. So the rapidity at which the individual protocols are getting developed vis-a-vis the cyber resilience and the cyber security standards or the capabilities to protect them, I think there is a lag, and that is where the focus needs to be. I shall move ahead. What are the potential security measures? We need to focus both on the satellite side as well as a ground-based ecosystem side because both are interrelated. We need to be focusing on identity and access management, IoT device security, intrusion detection systems, supply chain risk management, command validation, and communication protection. Edge computing with inbuilt AI ML protocols or algorithms can play an important role in some of these aspects. For those who want to discuss it further, we can discuss it offline. Similarly, for ground-based systems, network segmentation, policy implementation, employee training, vendor risk management, intrusion detection with AI and ML, and information sharing are some of the other aspects which can help in the can be part of the potential security measures. The pole position is that securing air and space assets is imperative for seamless exploration. Strong cybersecurity measures encompassing secure communication channels, data integrity, and close collaboration among air and space agencies and cybersecurity aspects aid the furtherance of protection of space. And this commitment ensures both continued success of space missions and the untainted pursuit of scientific knowledge. Thank you.
Finally, we have cybersecurity alchemist, Wing Commander Sudhakaran, who would be covering entirely a new domain which we have not talked today through the day. Role of AI and quantum in the cybersecurity, and also anticipate the emerging cybersecurity threat for us.
So what do I do? Ladies and gentlemen, very few chairs occupied. Nevertheless, I'll try my level best to make the most of the time that you've decided to spend here. For me to, I've got all of 6 minutes, but I think I'll take 5 more minutes extra because that's when I can actually justify the time that you have invested today on this session. Satyam just said that the space controls the world, the control of the space controls the world. But the topic that I'm today going to touch upon is intelligence. Intelligence, incidentally, controls the cosmos. And consciousness controls the intelligence. So that's where I'm beginning. When I started my career in the Air Force, we used to operate, I used to see a manual BATC being operated. A guy used to stand behind a mirrored, a glass board, writing in reverse. He was taught how to write in reverse, and that's how the air situation pictures used to get updated. And I used to wonder, even in those days, such an absurdity, how could you do that with a fighter aircraft and a missile? I came from a missile background initially in the Air Force. And then I saw it getting migrated to an SA BATC and an FA BATC. And then finally, when me along with Vatsasya, we were looking at automating our network systems, we were talking about a concept called net centricity of warfare. That was the most in thing at that time. And then it sounded interesting, but then within another 5, 6, 7 years, I realized the Chinese military had already adopted a doctrine called intelligencization of its armed forces. Mind you, we're still not talking about that. They already got into that a good 12 years back. And they started intelligencization of its armed forces a decade back. That's the genesis behind the talk that I'm going to give today. So one of the principles of war is surprise. That's a key element of war. But one thing about surprise is it's about change. You know, something or the other keeps changing. But there is one thing constant in that, and that is evolution of technology. Which means everybody knows that technology is going to evolve, right? When the times when people used to fight on the back of a horse with wielding swords, and then suddenly came the guns, and then people found that you can't fight wars like that. Then they dug trenches, then they realized, then came the tanks. Then from nowhere came the aircrafts. But actually, as way back as 100 years back, in the Second World War, if you thought that the fighter aircrafts and the tanks won that war, you are wrong. It was information that won that war. In 1942, when Britain turned the tables on Germany, what they did was they broke the German Enigma cipher code. They exactly knew what Germans were planning. Every bit of their, in fact, Germans had better aircrafts, better tanks. The Panzers were very renowned, and it did all the damage during the first part of the World War. But for a good 30 years, British forces, as well as the American forces, they kept this as a secret. It only came when Gordon Welchman started talking about the Hut 6, the Bletchley Park. What did they do? And that's when the world came to know what information could do. That's when people knew the real power of information warfare. But today, information warfare is obsolete concept. We're talking about intelligencization of warfare. There are a lot of people today who talked about AI and ML very colloquially and casually interchanged. And this is where I want to start my talk with one basic understanding that we need to probably unlearn and relearn. Our probable understanding of AI itself is distorted and wrong. Because intelligence exhibits itself in 3 forms. One is intelligence by comparison, which means I see you, I remember you, which means I have kept my memory, I've recollected from it, and I have shared it with you. That's what intelligence by comparison is. Any computer, the if then else in any algorithm, that's intelligence by comparison. A dog sees you, sometimes it wags a tail, and sometimes it barks. That's intelligence by comparison. Second is intelligence by computation. Computers were always good at it. You put a formula, and then you get a result. The machine learning that you're talking today is nothing but intelligence by computation. There is no rocket science to it. The third important part of intelligence is intelligence from cognition. And that's the most critical part. Most of you, when you say use AI, you're only talking about comparison and computational part. Essentially, when you talk about a machine learning algorithm, what you're trying to do is fit a curve of best fit into the data set that is given. That's how it extrapolates data. It is all a play of mathematics. But cognition is altogether a different beast. Now, can machines have cognitive power is the real question. So, starting from here, let me now quickly get into my 16 slides because the timer is already 00, so I'll take quickly 5 minutes to run through this. So, most of what you say as AI is essentially advanced automation. And this has been always there for the last 30 years. When I was in my high school, I used to do programming in an x86. I started with an x86, 186, 286, 386, 486. We always did this. Why it has become prominent today is the compute has become so much good. Your edge compute has become so much good that the computational intelligence seems to become so intelligent that you started thinking that it is intelligent. It is pure computation. We have to understand, where does automation end and real intelligence begin? That's the first thing that we need to do. The second thing is, what is the true definition of an AI? When Alan Turing first defined AI, he defined AI as the ability of a machine to be able to exhibit intelligence at par or better than a human. That's the original definition of AI. Now today we have distorted it because the guy who sells the fridge, the guy who's selling a TV, or anything from a slipper to your inner garments, everything seems to have an AI. That's a marketing gimmick, and we need to get over that. That's certainly not intelligence. We know intelligence is far more superior and something else than what we are talking about. If we understand that, if we know that, if we accept this is the true definition of AI, then we must know, if somebody says that this is AI, we must also know, is there a test to determine what is being claimed as AI or not? How many of us know, is there a real test for AI? If somebody comes and tells you that, I have put AI into your system, how do you know the quality of it? There is a standard for gold, right? 18 karat, 20 karat, 21 karat, 22 karat. How do you determine that? And the most important aspect of technology, how does it go unverified? We belong to a scientific community where we don't accept a person unless until he comes with a certificate, passes a certain exam. And your AI seems to be accepted out of nowhere. Anything and everything which is sold by the white man seems to be in the realm of AI. And this is where it's very important for a country like India. The most important thing for India is its demography. India is the only country in the world which can actually give a good run for the money for the leading powers in its race for AI. But our demography has been waylaid. Waylaid into downloading from GitHub, into adopting frameworks which are developed in the Western countries. In fact, a lot of people tell that a lot of our CEOs are ruling the Western world. Sorry. We don't have a single technology worth its salt which is grown in India. We don't have one generative AI framework here. China has thousands of them. And what is the consequence? Just type in your Copilot your name and ask who is he. Copilot gives complete credentials of mine. What is the consequence of such a scenario is, a CIA agent would take at least 6 months, a decade back to find your profile. Today, he takes less than 10 seconds. He has your Instagram, your WhatsApp, your Google probably. He'll know more darker secrets about yourself than you yourself know about. You might have forgotten a night spent in a Sin City. That's the level that technology has got proliferated into your life. And we seem to be blissfully unaware. And that is why we need to wake up. And that's why we have our socks need to be pulled up. So this leads to another important question. Can we buy AI as a commercially off-the-shelf available product and use it for our use? That's a very important question that we need to find answer to. We can buy a Rafale from France. But what if that Rafale comes from a solution or an algorithm which is really intelligent? What are the consequences of buying such a system? It may very well operate during peacetime. I'll draw an analogy. When Americans sold F-16 to Pakistan, it said that it cannot be used for offensive purpose. Because when post-Balakot, when Pakistan was trying to use it, Americans had told that you can't use it for F-16. Pakistan's used F-16s that was bought from Syria. Now, how would Americans control the F-16s that was being used by Pakistan? They had geofenced it, which means technically if it had crossed the Indian borders, the potential capability of that platform will be grossly suppressed. That's today's technology. Imagine if you're going to buy tomorrow dependency of a foreign aircraft like a Rafale. It could deny taking off. What kind of a situation would the Indian Air Force land in? Are we conversant with this. This is where we need to understand the real threat of cybersecurity which AI brings in. We talk about zero-day vectors. Stuxnet is an example of a zero-day vector. But when you talk about intelligence, we need to talk about something called as an intent vector. An intent vector has got two components, a self-intent and an instigated intent. Instigated intent is you are under my control, you do what I say. Self-intent is I, of my own moral compass, tell no, I will not bomb this population. That's what AI brings onto the table. If you accept the machine to exhibit intelligence at par with you. If you understand this, you will now be clear you can't buy a product which is commercially off the shelf. So can there be a global collaboration of AI? Well, the answer is obvious. If you are aspiring to be the world's top superpower, if you want to be on the top 3 club, if you want to have a chunk of the world's GDP, you better be self-reliant and indigenize it yourself. Collaboration means giving your secret outside. Our armed forces conduct exercises with friendly forces, but that doesn't mean that we share our war plans. We need to have our own plans. So therefore, the way forward is definitely indigenization. And this is where we need to also understand what is the possibility of this kind of an intelligent system to be a possibility in the near future. We conducted a survey of sorts in the last 24 hours. A majority of the respondents gave this as an answer. And I'll sum up, almost 50% of them felt that we are vulnerable. AGI could be a possibility in the next 5 to 20 years. That's the broad figure that they've given. And they've also felt that our government is not doing enough, which is something that I can also substantiate by my own experience of what I have dealt outside the Air Force also. Because our understanding at the bureaucracy, at the technocracy, and at the general public level is abysmally very poor. Our academia is, found wanting because there's not a single paper which could actually inspire confidence that we are doing enough. Most of our papers are centered for academic excellence. Mostly it centers around grammatical changes. Probably to acquire a prefix, a doctor's degree in front of the name. That's not what research is meant for. Research should produce real technologies which could actually spur an indigenization. And these are points that we are lacking, and we need to take the bull by its horn. I would also like to bring out that OpenAI, Tesla, Meta, and Google, each of them are investing more than $100 billion USD to build their individual GPU farms. And we, as in competition, our MATI has announced 10,000 crores for building one GPU farm, and they don't know how to use it. Because there is no unified policy or a unified program to approach it. So unlike the nuclear plan, which gave you 25 years to catch up and get into that club, the problem with the AGI is the moment that it is going to be realized, it is not going to allow anyone else to cross that line. The first AGI breach on singularity means there's no one else who is going to be able to come, because the first attack is going to be a communication attack to know what you're doing. And there will be targeted attacks, targeted machine-based attacks. And you can't fight against something like a JCB, right? So that's what we are looking at. And the most important part, what I want to tell is, we don't have a discourse on what quantum AI is all about. Quantum, we know that can actually have a brute compute power. And we know AI requires GPU farms to be able to bring in solutions which are of any consequence. Marriage of quantum with AI, quantum accelerating AI and AI accelerating quantum are some things that could actually usher in the complete AGI singularity era. But unfortunately, We neither have a plan, nor have a discourse, nor have enough research, nor have enough allocation of money. The national GERD ratio, which is the gross GDP to R&D ratio, is 0.73. Countries like Korea invest something like 4.5%. China invests that kind of money, and we aspire to be a world superpower. The problem for us is we will miss this bus. We can keep tom-tomming, we can tell everybody that we're doing a lot. But unless and until, if you want to go to the IIT and if you don't study physics, chemistry and mathematics, you're not going to reach there. You can tell your parents that you're still with a book reading something else. God knows what you're reading. You are not destined
Sudhakaran.
towards the right direction. And that's why it's very important. So, sorry, I'm just in the last slide. So, to complete this, the race for AGI is unlike anything that we have seen. In the Olympics of AGI, there's only one race and one medal. If we understand this, we would need to get our acts right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sudhakaran. I'll just take you to the military domain and tell you what's happening around there. Okay, so lots of attack pattern we heard about during the immersive session of the day. One of the prominent thing which we are worried about is insider or insider-enabled attack. And when we talk of the domain of warfare, three primary domain of land, water, and air, and space and the cyber coming through. And the sixth one I would like to say is industry, Atmanirbharta. So today we had the talk of the four of the critical domains, barring the land and the water. And also the five foundational principle which governs your war waging potential of information or the intelligence, firepower, mobility, survivability, and sustainability. Today, we are talking about information dominance. And when we talk of the information dominance, OODA loop from observe to act being critical, and all air forces, like our own air force, is taking the lead. And in 2017 onward, USAF started talking of that, and that gave birth to a concept called as GID, Global Information Dominant Experimentation, and they are going through the 8th phase of that. They have planned to go through 10 phase of that. We too are looking at how do we have a cloudification of information going down to having the shared awareness right up to the last man. And apart from the terrestrial network of NFS, you may have heard of FNet for the Air Force, but now with the NFS network for Spectrum, even the Army has got a similar bandwidth or maybe higher bandwidth than the Air Force, what it is getting through the FNet. So there, along with the terrestrial, you have deployable net supported by the SATCOM and also the RF segment of line of sight, non-line of sight. All this thing together gives you cloudification with the edge computing, AI, and every down to the each communication node becoming that information or the intelligence center, and whole decision cycle being compressed into a very short time frame. Now, what do we watch out for? Look out for what kind of investment adversary, non-state actor, etc. is doing in terms of where they are doing, and try and be at least par with the curve, because for 75 years, we had monopoly of DRDO and DPSU, and because of no competition, obviously innovation was lacking. Also, there will be convergence of physical and the digital system, so there will be new attack surfaces and the new solution would be required. Sudhakaran, he talked of AGI and QAI, so for the both defensive and offensive of the cyber domain, we need to work on that. International cooperation, diplomatic engagement to make some kind of a protocol which secures your air and space, at least in the civilian domain and the military domain to some extent. And what are the acronym I would like to give it would be AIITA. A stand for awareness. Until now, the armed forces were talking of giving me a product. Last year, we have started talking of R&D with the industry and everyone. Everybody says that with the Kargil war, when the armed forces paid by the blood, the industry opened up, defense sector opened up for the industry. But for me, it's just 5 to 6 years the right earnest industry has come. After 2016 to 19, when lots of license were removed, FDI norms were made, everything become liberal. So essentially, we are just about 7 to 8 year old industry in the defense. And startup is just about 2 years, because even though IDEX and the TDF was there from 2017-18, it's only last 2 years. Courtesy, CISC is here. He is to conduct every quarter review of the delegated scheme. As a result of that, entire push, the change in the pattern, how do we look at the industry came in. Somebody talked of the investment. Have you looked at the R&D budget? The taxation, 2017, from 200% to 150%. 2019, 150% to 100%. You are not getting R&D tax break, which was the best in the world, 200%. Who is talking? Only in the blue uniform, some of us we are talking. None of you are talking. Innovation. One of the things which we is a close interface between user and industry and academia, so that you have a right mentoring, so that your technology is innovated into a product which addresses my pain point. Also, are you nurturing your talent? The brighter guys, are you sending somewhere to acquire knowledge, come back, ploy into that? Lots of not. At least I know the DRDO doesn't have those kind of scheme. Team and collaborate. Until unless all the stakeholder, government, user, industry, academia sit together in session like this regularly, will take much more time than usually we have to. And lastly is adopt and induct. That is your procurement process. Thereafter, you understanding the system. Thereafter, evolving and refining those. Because we do not have a testing system with the industry wherein the user gets involved, and from TRL 7 to 9, you refine the product, and thereafter you have the finite product coming to, you make the TRL 9, say, come and test, thereafter procurement cycle, and then by the time the system comes in. So therefore, there is a need for TRL and MRL to run together and user involvement at a regular interval. As basic as OS, AV, EDR, all are imported. All our system, weapon system are operating on old OS. A simple solution for last 1.5 years I have been requesting, can you give it to us? Money is not there too much. Also being a knowledge partner, money is not there. But when you come and teach us, you would have the youngster, still we follow the Gurukul Pratha in the armed forces. They will fall back on you whenever they get stuck, and when they're stuck, that's the problem statement for you to innovate and make money. Work on the modern cryptography. We are World War II. For last 6 months, we have written to everyone in the country so that give us new cryptography. Thereafter, blockchain, you know that lots of power, etc. is taken. Can you make something like a low-cost blockchain for us? And the similar. Also AGI and those kind of a concept. Self-healing the network. Can you give it to us? And lastly, I'd like to thank my fellow panelists to take us through this interesting session towards the end of the day. And also, I would like to thank all the members who are guests who are present here and for their kind attention. Thank you very much. May I request you to put our hands together for both, for panelists and the guest. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You spoke about the space air battle challenges. The overall perspectives. Air Commodore is not here, so he spoke about air gap systems, spoke about legacy systems, challenges of the emerging technologies. Wing Commander Satyam spoke about cyber threat to airspace systems, challenges posed by cyber threats, vulnerabilities faced by air assets, integrated airspace-based systems threats. And Wing Commander Sudhakaran spoke about the right from evolution of the technology. He spoke about intelligization of warfare, edge compute, how it is all of a sudden has become so big. And one scary thing I'll take away from here today is he spoke about if Rafael someday denies to take off as a consequence of cybersecurity. I mean, that is very scary. I hope we never see that. With this, we'd like to close today's session. In fact, I would request Devesh sir to please come on stage and Krishna sir to please hand over the